Berlin, Germany, 1961. A wall made of cinder blocks and barbed wire was built in the middle of the city, dividing East and West Berlin. Why was one of the biggest European cities divided? Why did so many people try to flee to West Berlin? Imagine you were assigned to write a historical essay on the Berlin Wall. What kind of information would you include in your essay? What types of words could you use to express specific and clear information on the Berlin Wall? As you know, nouns are the words that name things. Common nouns address everyday words like street, wall, and city, while proper nouns refer to a particular thing, place, or being, like East Berlin or Germans. There are also abstract nouns that describe non-tangible things like war, oppression, and power. Another type of noun is a compound noun. Compound nouns are made up of two or more words. For example, watchtower. It's important to know the right nouns to use in different situations. Some nouns, like cardinal direction east, are common, but when paired with another noun, such as East Berlin, it is capitalized and together becomes a proper noun. Paying attention to this would make your writing clear and descriptive. As you watch this segment on the Berlin Wall, listen for the different types of nouns used, and think about how you'd use different types of nouns in your writing. Toward the end of World War II in 1945, the Soviet Army attacked Germany from the east. American, British, and French forces attacked from the west. The Soviets fought their way into the center of Berlin. Then, the war in Europe ended. The invading countries divided Germany into four parts. American, French, and British sections became West Germany. The East section was ruled by the Soviets. The German capital of Berlin was also subdivided into the same four occupational zones.
Berlin remained until 1961 very much a single city, although divided in theoretical lines, only theoretical lines, with the Soviets and the East Germans running one part and the West running the other. The underground system was connected, the bus system was connected, the phone system was connected, the sewerage system was connected, the tram lines were connected. It was just one city, and it was unthinkable it could be divided. West Berlin was heavily subsidized by the West and prosperous. East Germany had to pay war reparations to the Soviets and was therefore very poor. So the two standards of living were wildly different on either side of the same street. And as a consequence, the East Germans began to just walk across and emigrate to the West, which wanted skilled East German workers. And East Germany began to hemorrhage at the rate of a small town a year. Well, if you've only got 19 million to start with, you know where the logic of that's going to go. It's going to go to oblivion.
In August of 1961, the Berlin Wall was built to separate the citizens of East Berlin from West Berlin.
People couldn't understand that this was going to be a permanent division of their city, and they really wouldn't be able to walk across the street to see their mother anymore.
As both East and West Berliners realized their city had been divided, tensions rose and violence increased.
It was what I believe was a defining moment when two young men from the East tried to get across quite near Checkpoint Charlie in 1962. One got across and the other was shot down, a young man called Peter Fechter, against the wall and was left to bleed to death.
The civilized world cried shame when East German guards shot a fleeing teenager and then left him to die. They removed his body, but they will never remove him as a symbol to the angered Germans. They vented their wrath on buses carrying Russian guards to a Soviet war memorial and turned to the West Berlin Freedom Bell to voice their unity as a people.
East Berliners were trapped. The East German government shot anyone who tried to escape. The citizens of East Berlin resorted to many ways of escaping. Some attempted to swim across the freezing canals, sneak past the watchtowers, stow away in tiny cars, and even dig a tunnel under the wall. Some made it. Others did not. As the years passed, Hungary, one of East Germany's partners in communist Eastern Europe, was dismantling its Cold War barriers to the West. As the change started taking place, East Germans began traveling through Czechoslovakia to get to West Germany.
And East Germany then sealed its border with Czechoslovakia. It essentially isolated itself from the 20th century. And this emboldened the people who'd never been bold before. And the moment they started to think and act for themselves, the regime essentially was finished.
The protesting was part of the new wave of democracy sweeping many communist countries in Europe. Then, one night in October 1989, during a televised press conference, an East German government official made a shocking speech, declaring all travel restrictions would be lifted and East Germans would be allowed to travel wherever they wanted.
The ultimate irony was that in a state run by total bureaucracy, it was a bureaucratic error that defeated it and destroyed it in the end. And the error came about like this. The East German head of government sensed that to head off the rising tide of dissent, he would open the wall to let people out. But this would be properly regulated. You'd have to go to a police station, get a visa stamp, permission. And he gave it to a man called Günter Schabowski, who was a Politburo member, and said, at your nightly press conference, announce this. And Schabowski did not look at it because he was in a hurry. And at the end of the press conference, he said, oh, and by the way, there's some new travel regulations. And he reeled them out that in future East Germans would be allowed to travel. And an Italian journalist said, when? And Schabowski said, oh. And he fumbled to look for this piece of paper he hadn't read, and looked at it and said, as far as I know, immediately.
This is a historic night. The East German government has now declared that East German citizens can pass through the wall beginning tomorrow morning, no restrictions.
Groups of East Berliners who watched the press conference on television started to mass in thousands at various checkpoints. Guards could no longer hold back the crowds, and the East Berliners began crossing over into West Berlin.
East Berliners can come to West Berlin, and West Berliners can go to East Berlin without visas. That's great.
In less than a year, the Berlin Wall was dismantled. Berliners from East and West gathered at the heart of their city to celebrate the unification of Germany. Berlin was divided no longer. Now that you've learned more about the history behind the Berlin Wall, were you able to identify different types of nouns used to name things? Did the story include common, proper, abstract, and compound nouns? Did the use of these types of nouns help the reader identify a person, place, or thing? The next time you are asked to write, remember to use the different types of nouns in your writing.